Uh, Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much for inviting me to speak here. It's a real privilege to be here. I must say that I'm a lot happier wandering around the African bush amongst the snakes and crocodiles than I am standing up here. So hopefully I'll acquit myself well. As Urate said, just to put things into context, I actually grew up in Zambia. I'm very passionate about education and conservation, and I still to this day spend much of my time in Zambia. I am lucky enough to have had a moderately successful business career. I'm now a serial investor across multiple sectors, as she said, the power sector, connectivity, education and conservation being the primary ones. And I'd like to emphasize that I stand in front of you as an engineer and an entrepreneur. I'm not a connectivity expert, and I'm most definitely not an education expert. So it's slightly ironic that I'm standing here talking about education. But I guess as an engineer, I'm always seeking better solutions. And I consider myself a social investor, if you like. About 10 years ago, I invested into Mwabu, which is an edtech company that was probably the first to digitize an African primary school curriculum for use on tablets. If you think back, it's not that many years ago that tablets were only just coming into the mainstream. So Mwabu, as back then, was very cutting edge. However, in my career with Mwabu, as an investor, I eventually came to realize that actually EdTech requires a lot more than just the content. If one is to make EdTech work in rural areas, then one has to sort the connectivity and the power issues as well. Otherwise, it doesn't do you any good at all. So we've had a lot of talk over the last few days about the importance of connectivity and internet access. I found much of it very, very interesting. Some of it's gone over my head. I think there's a lot of good words being said. But I must say I've heard very, very little about user solutions for providing affordable data, affordable devices, content, or power. And what I'd like to do now is share some of the innovations that we're trialing in rural areas in Zambia, which I believe are potentially very, very scalable across not just Africa, but any developing nation. So before I start, I learned a long time ago that it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. So if I break a few rules in my talk today, or sacrifice any sacred cows, with apologies to our Indian colleagues if they're here, please forgive me. The first rule that I was told to follow was to limit my slides to less than 5. So here's slide 2 of 22. The second rule was about advertising. Sorry, guys, it's just too good an opportunity to miss. So yeah, you're going to have some Mwabu logos coming up. And before I start, I'd like to just make it clear that my talk differs from that was advertised in the written program. I'm talking about EdTech and energy solutions, not power and energy solutions. And I'm also not formally representing the Zambia in any shape or form, much as I love being there. So just to get things going, we've seen some fantastic videos, very high-end videos over the last few days. Here's one that we made. I sent one of my guys down with a mobile phone, and his budget was 50 litres of diesel. I hope you enjoy it. told you it was too good an opportunity to miss. If you want to find out more about some of the content and product that we can offer, then scan that. If you miss it, don't worry, there's another opportunity later. I'll very briefly mention the N50 project because my colleague John Morris talked very well about that yesterday. We're about to, we hope, start a trial in Zambia with the blessing of the Ministry of Education there about, testing out some innovative ways of delivering improved connectivity and education in very rural areas. Fundamentally, I think everyone in education understands that teachers are crucial to successful learning outcomes. I know some developers have tried to cut out the teachers, and fundamentally that's not going to work. So what we believe is that we have to work with teachers, and we're not in any way looking to replace them. I believe teachers will benefit massively from the support that technology can give them. What they need is the right tools, good curriculum, good content, good lesson plans. They need training and continuous professional development. They need mentoring, motivating, and better community support as well. So in very rural areas, that's actually very difficult to achieve, as many of you will know. So what we have done is we have built content. We've built the entire Zambian primary school curriculum with some 4,000 plus lesson plans as well on it. It's in local language, all major subjects, and it's available on one of these. We can put everything onto this, including support apps as well. The way we project it is one of these. This is a little projector. This cost me, I ordered it from Amazon a few days ago. It was about £300. You can buy it in the US for about $300 US, and it's scaled. You could get a lot more of these for that money. So basically what we're trying to do is recognizing that it's impossible to give every school a device for a child. So what we are starting to do is equip the teacher with everything that they need. And essentially a series of phones for the teachers and 1 or 2 projectors comes in at up to $2,000 per school. And of course, if you do this at scale, then the cost will reduce significantly. Having provided teachers with good quality smartphones, we've then got to figure out how we get the teachers to use these, because all too often, sadly, we've provided hardware into schools which then doesn't get used because people are nervous about it, they don't want to break it, they're embarrassed, that they don't know how to work it. So what we're trialing in Zambia is getting the teachers to buy the phones themselves, which is probably fairly innovative. But what the Zambian government has a payroll deduction scheme for teachers. So it is possible to implement a contract with them where they pay for the phone over 12 months or thereabouts, and then at the end of that period, they own it. Now, what we're going to trial is if at the end of the 12 months, the teachers have achieved the KPIs that we've agreed with them in the contracts, then we give them a very significant discount against the cost of the phone. And what we're hoping is that they won't therefore quibble about using content on their own personal phones, and that'll provide a degree of motivation for better performance. And fundamentally, I believe that performance needs to improve amongst teachers. What I've observed in Zambia is that everyone wants a nice smartphone, and they will fall over themselves to be able to afford a nice Samsung. iOS is way too expensive, what we're talking about that now, but certainly good Samsung-type phones are very much very desirable. So how can we reduce what this will do, if we manage to pull it off, is it effectively reduces the cost of hardware for the government. We're actually getting the teachers to buy something for use and work, but they're buying it at a discount. And if the government can do this enough at scale, then the cost of the phones will come down to, sort of, I don't know what the number is, 50, 60% of the retail value. So the other big plus for providing smartphones for teachers is that it's possible to put additional apps and content and services onto these phones. So digital literacy starts to flow automatically. We're building a teacher training app. We've got an attendance app in development. not for the teachers, but for the pupils. I've tried to track pupil data over the years, and it's impossible because everything is manually written into books, and you can't see who's attending and who's missing and when. So things like literacy, numeracy, assessment will all follow once we've got this system working. And very, very importantly, we can actually track data. We can track curriculum coverage from the teachers, and we can do this offline. So all of you connectivity geeks who are talking about how important it is, sorry, we got their first team. We can actually track what's happening in the classroom with the teacher just using local microserver, and then if there's no connectivity, we take the data to the connectivity. Let's just very quickly look at the mathematics of this. Zambia has very roughly, order of magnitude, 10,000 primary schools. If, as in the video earlier, each school requires $20,000 worth approximately of hardware, over that many schools, that's a $200 million investment in hardware alone, which is unaffordable for Zambia. I don't know what other countries, what their budget situations are, but I suspect there's not that much difference, frankly. So for a tenth of the price, it's possible to equip every teacher in the country with content, digital content, on a phone that they own. And that suddenly becomes very, very affordable. And of course, if we do this at scale, and the teachers are making a contribution, then actually the cost to the government is going to reduce as well. Now, I know a lot of you will think, well, that isn't a full solution. I think one of the takeaways, Tim, hopefully, and Bernadette, you will have this week is that the best is the enemy of the good. If we keep trying to do the best, we will never be able to solve the problem. So for me, I accept that this is not a full-blown solution, but it's a very good stepping stone along the way. Energy solutions. So this particular requirement, phone and projector, it's possible to service the power solutions with portable panels, basically, which cost anything from 20 to 40 US dollars. And you don't actually need one per teacher. Have a little think, too, about the return on investment for a school solar system. I personally believe that equipping a school with a dedicated solar system is suboptimal. Having been into many schools and clinics in Zambia, where I've seen the systems don't function anymore because they've been abused. Look at the maths again. Schools operate for about 180 days a year. Power is unused, generally speaking, unless someone is using it illegally when the school is closed. The community does not benefit directly from that power solution that was providing into that school. And wanting to be slightly contentious, Tim, I'm sure you'll appreciate this. In my view, rural primary schools don't actually need computers and laptops anyway, not at primary level, because they create more problems than they solve, basically. You've got the maintenance, the power issues that go with it, the viruses that go onto these things, dust gets in them, spiders, you name it. They don't work. And a lot of the schools, even if they have power available, the school local to me in Zambia, they've got power, they can't afford to pay for the budget to turn it on. So I would encourage all of you, particularly for rural and particularly for primary schools, just rethink your hardware strategy for computers and laptops. And when it comes to digital literacy, my experience is that the bigger issue is literacy, not digital literacy. So just have a think a little bit about that. Fundamentally, more devices means more power, it costs more. So what can we do instead on the power side of things? I think that we need to be thinking about how we can optimize power solutions by putting power into communities rather than into single source facilities such as a school or a clinic. If we do this at scale, then the installation costs of solar energy is much lower. The power systems, very, very importantly, become properly managed, because what fails often is the abuse of the power system in a school or in a clinic. But if they manage centrally, on behalf of the entire community with someone who knows what they're doing and won't allow the system to be cheated, then they will last much longer. And of course, there's wider community benefits as a consequence of that. And if one is putting scaled power into communities, then there's PPP opportunities too. Here's something that is working very well in... Yep, okay, I'll rattle through. Power distribution via SneakerNet, rechargeable batteries. These are working very well in West Africa. They're scaling right now in Nigeria. They're already functioning in Sierra Leone. We've tried it in Zambia. I believe there's a model that could be developed for providing battery power into clinics and schools. Another thought, telcos. This is a telco industry conversation, basically. Telcos are slowly but surely moving to off-grid power solutions. They always put more power in than they actually need. There's a huge amount of surplus power available at telco sites for much of the year. So actually upgrading those telco sites in partnership with the telcos and the government and the power providers would potentially allow shared power to be used that could go into the communities. And we have a model for that, which we're close to testing out as well. Just to give you a sense of what we're doing, this is one of the community hubs that we've built in Zambia. We've built 11 so far. The power from here can go into, be used into various things, education. The hub is not just a power hub, it's a community resource hub. We do bike rentals, we do microloans, mobile money. We're working towards developing community farms where we can put solar pumping in, internet cafe talk time sales. So it becomes very, very beneficial to the wider community. So my message to you, everyone, is that innovative solutions for speeding up digital transformation actually already exist. You maybe just haven't thought with them or don't know about them. The key takeaways: best is the enemy of good. It isn't necessary to equip a school who doesn't even have books with a full-blown digital solution. Integrated multi-sector PPP approach is absolutely essential to make this work. I believe shared power solutions that benefit communities should be considered in much more depth than they are. And don't reinvent the wheel. There are plenty of organizations such as Mwabu that have already built digital curriculum. Come and have a chat, because what we've built is usable. 2 and 2 is for everywhere, right? So whether it's Zambia or Zimbabwe or Malawi or Botswana, it's still the same. You might want it in a different place in the curriculum, but we can move it around. So don't reinvent the wheel. And then, yeah, I'd encourage you to think laterally. So there you go. That's my talk. If you want to know contact details, then scan that. If not, then I'm sure they'll be available through everyone else. Oh, and by the way, Mwabu so far is very much focused on Africa, but if any of our Caribbean, Pacific Island, thank you.
You have 20 minutes.
Right. But you said I could have more time, Tim. I'm finishing now. If any of our Caribbean, Pacific Island or Indian colleagues want to invite me to check out their beautiful countries, then drop me a line. If it's for work, insert CTO in the subject line. If it's for pleasure, beach in the subject line will be fine. Forgive me again for all my indiscretions, Tim. Thank you very much.